right, this is another episode of Sorry for Rambling. I'm Alex Cack. I've really got to get a better intro for that, and I am joined today by Kelly Bachman. God, I hope I didn't fuck up the last name. Kelly, did I?
No, that was good.
Cool. That's normally the first thing I ask before hitting the record button, because I've screwed it up too many times, and I forgot to. So Kelly, you are a comedian, you're an actor, you're a director, you're a producer, you've done a million film collectives. What am I missing? You play the ukulele.
I play guitar.
Oh.
Well, I own a ukulele, but I have a band.
What's your band called?
Boys Drool. And I play guitar and sing and write songs in the band.
How long has the band been together?
Only we had our year anniversary not that long ago, and we released a demo, which I kind of mixed myself during the quarantine, and it's very it's kind of unfinished, but because we're very on hold, and also we're sort of scattered around, and I didn't see us getting together to record anytime soon. Just decided to release it it's in a very unfinished state, just so we have something online. So it's out there, Boys Drool, but it wasn't a planned, it wasn't a big release. It was just I wanted to put something out there.
I mean, that's the most pure reason to do it though, right?
Yeah, I was just why not? I wanted something to do, and I'd been wanting to get these songs done, and we don't have any money, so I was just I'll just try to take the songs as far as I can myself. And I'm not really a talented musician. I just started doing music. I learned guitar for the band, so I'm not a guitarist. I just wanted to write songs, so I did, and now they're online.
I mean, that's legitimately a very impressive and incredible reason to do it, though. Okay, so now I'm really curious. You learned guitar to form the band, but yeah. What was the story behind that?
Well, I've owned a guitar since I was in 7th grade, and I've never really learned to play it. And I still think that could be said to be true in a way, but where did it begin? I started doing comedy, or I moved to New York 5 years ago. I moved here. I wanted to be a filmmaker. I wanted to write for a TV show. I wanted to write for a Saturday Night Live or an NBC show. I was how do I do that? So I was trying to get into film production and assisting a film director, and trying to figure out how to pivot that into TV production job and climb a ladder that way, and get into a writer's room. I don't know. And just writing in my free time. And I hadn't gone to film school. I didn't have any friends. So I started a film collective and started making short films that way. And that turned into making sketch comedy videos with comedians. And I was always behind the scenes. And I think it's been sort of in the back of my mind, there's this performer in me that I always repressed. It was no, you belong behind the scenes. You're not a performer, you're the director, you're the writer, they're the performer, always putting other people in front. But I kept always putting myself around performers. I would date performers, or I'd want to make a documentary about performers, or I'd want to produce a show for comedy, even though I'm not a stand-up. And I kept putting myself in this situation. And then I dated this comic and was really living vicariously through him, and helping him write and helping him with packets and helping him. And I was it's fine, I'm a filmmaker. And then this is corny, but this is how I'm getting into the musician thing. I did this this stand-up comedian who's friends with, at this point, he was my ex-boyfriend. Still is my ex-boyfriend. This is when he became my ex-boyfriend. And a stand-up who was friends with him, she was you might want to come do this book club with me. We're reading this book, The Artist Way. which is about getting in touch with your creative self. He's like, I really think you would benefit from it. And I get to the group, and the group is called like the Artist Way for Stand-Up Comics. And I was like, fuck, I don't belong here. And she's like, wait, look, just read. And the first chapter of the book is about being a shadow artist. And it's like artists who put themselves around the type of artist they want to be. And it really hit me hard. I was like, fuck, I'm like living a lie. So I did this like book club and all these comics that were really nice people, really supportive, like the nicest like comics I'd ever met, because they're not all nice. And they were so supportive that by the end of the summer I had like signed up to do an improv class. And then like a few weeks into the improv class, everyone in my improv class is like, you're a comic, like you're a stand-up. And so I was like, started doing stand-up, and then I just kind of hit the ground running and truly only did stand-up for like, and I also started a sketch show where like I would be in the show, like I would be one of the actors, and I started it with everyone from this book club. And like, so it was like the book club turned into the sketch show collective, and I would write the show and produce the show, and we would live stream it, and it would be like a monthly thing. A year later of doing stand-up and doing this sketch show, we almost sold the show in LA. We didn't, but it went a lot further than I thought it would. Like, it was just something I decided to try, and like my performance was noticed a lot more than I thought it would be. And the stand-up weirdly blew up because a year later the Weinstein thing happened. And I was like, whoa, this is so crazy. Like, I've been a creative person for a while, but I'm so new to performing. And it was weird for like me to suddenly perform and have it be like explode more than I viewed myself as a shy person, not new to writing, but new to performing. And so then once that worked out and I was like so excited, and this is before, like, obviously, since it's been a year, the timing, it wasn't exactly, that's not when the band started. The band started earlier. But just when, like, me as a performer started picking up, it made me, like, remember that when I was a little kid, how much I wanted to be a comedian when I was a kid. And that was, like, that's what the Artist Way is about. It's about, like, connecting to your child self and what they love to do. And my child self was like this little ham that loved comedy and loved like performing and writing a performing sketch and like being funny in public. And that kid also like loved to write songs and sing songs and like play songs. So I just kind of decided to get into that and like explore that, and was like, maybe I'll try writing a song. So I asked someone who I was in that book club with if she had like ever thought about playing an instrument. And she was like, oh, I'll buy drums. So she bought drums, and another person was like, I'll learn to guitar too. And then another guy was like, I happen to own a bass that I found on the street. So we're all like new musicians, and it was just kind of a fun thing. Like, we're all comedians that are trying music, and it's serious music, but I wrote the songs, and a lot of the songs are actually based on poems I wrote as a teenager. And it was sort of like it all kind of came together as like me trying to get in touch with this like kid artist version of myself that was not afraid of like being new at things and not afraid of performing. So that was a very long story, but that was the whole story.
Well, I mean, and you hit on a bunch of things I want to like jump off of. I'll start with the last one, because I think that's a very real thing, right? We all like put up these walls, and we get so afraid of sucking at something.
Yeah.
And stand up is the worst thing to suck at. It's just like you're very naked and out there, and it's like the wrong kind of laughter hurts very bad. But like the idea of kind of getting over that wall and getting back to that kind of like original sense of creativity and like what you really want to do, that idea kind of fascinates me, and it scares the hell out of me, which is probably why I'm not that good at any of my creative pursuits. What's that feeling like, honestly?
Well, for me, it was one kind of, it came out of this practice, which I feel like I'm like promoting a cult or something by talking about this book. But this book, like, it was telling me to like, one of the exercises from the book, which I still do like 2 years later, is writing like 3 pages every day of just before I do anything else. I write every day and try to kind of get to the source of what's on my mind. And also like journaling and thinking a lot about like, where did this begin? Like, when did I decide like what I am, to the degree of being like, I'm not a performer, like I'm this, like I'm behind the scenes girl. And sort of getting back to those early voices that shut you down, like whether it's a teacher or, you know, um, this feeling of like stage fright or whatever it is that makes you think like, that's not me, that's those people. And I'm not an artist, I'm a person who loves art, or like I'm a person who criticizes art, or whatever, you know, that's in your way. And for me, it was like getting over this idea that I need to like find my lane and stay in it, because I always had this idea that like I need to be great at whatever I do, and if I'm good at writing, I should just be a writer. And like, and I had heard that from people before too, like people who I, you know, whose opinions I valued had kind of validated that for me. Like the first time, for example, when I first moved to New York, I tried to do that sketch show, but I was surrounded by not supportive people. And they were like, but who will be in these sketches you're writing? And I was like, well, in this one, I could be in it. And they were like, but you're not a comedian. Like, you're not a performer. And they're like, have you ever been trained? Have you ever gone to UCB or whatever? And I was like, no. And they were like, okay, so we need to find comedians. And I was like, okay. So I like and those people are like blocked artists themselves. They're denying their own performer self. Like, if that's totally a them issue, but it bleeds onto me and makes me feel like I'm not worthy. And so for me, it really took finding these supportive people, but and getting in touch with like this idea of like quantity over quality, just letting myself make like whatever and putting it out there. And honestly, like that really rewarded me, or just like trusting my voice and trusting that I could just be myself, because I think I had lost my voice over the span of like a decade of being around really toxic, traumatizing people. And like finding that voice and saying like, oh, this is valid, I have something to say, and just letting someone else like worry about whether they think it's quality or not, and just put it out there because I love doing it, because it's who I am. Like, fish have to swim, birds have to fly, artists need to make art, and I'm gonna like keep making it. And that was kind of it for me. And it really like paid off in just me feeling more creative, me not feeling blocked. And I've seen it pay off for other people I did the book club with too. Like, oh my God, I did the book club with Sarah Cooper. Look at her go. I mean, seriously, like that is a perfect example of quantity over quality. Because not that it is quality, but her mindset when she started that was like, whatever, I'm just gonna try this. And she made a bunch of stuff, and just it's just like throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks and not like worrying about it. And then maybe like 10 things don't stick, maybe 20 things don't stick, and then maybe one thing fucking blows up, and then you're like Sarah Cooper. I don't know. Like, I just watching her go is like blown my mind.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of gatekeeping in the world, which is kind of like what you were describing earlier. And I like some of our artistic like scenes, for lack of a better term, are almost built around gatekeeping, which is such a destructive like concept in its own right. You know, that idea of like, oh, well, you can't do this because you didn't go to UCB, which is like
Right.
clearly so based on either someone themselves feeling unworthy of being on stage,
Right.
or just pissed off that they did go to UCB and that like no one's asking them to be in the sketch.
Right.
But I mean, we have like whole cottage industries based around that. I mean,
Right.
uh, how many blogs are out there that are just shitting on like some mixtape that some
Right.
kid made. Um,
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I feel like I've kind of tried to like recognize those people, like the kind of critical type people. It's like they have something they're dealing with themselves. Like I try to not look at it as like it's like, oh, that's like not a me problem that they talk this way. But same way I feel about like people on Twitter who say anyone who like someone calls you an opportunist or like says that you're not worthy of whatever, just like, okay, you have something going on. I don't or
a you thing.
it's like I've never really been since I got to New York. Initially, I wanted to like participate in the UCB. My goal was to work for NBC. I would love to perform at XYZ that's like famous. And the more I've been here, the more I'm not really interested in participating in like existing like these institutions because I've had so much more fun and like been so much more productive starting my own thing, like when I've started collectives or when I've started my own sketch like show or like my own whatever it is. Whenever I'm the most myself and kind of operating in the way that I want to and like my own bubble of me, like not like a bubble of the audience or whatever, but like not trying to fit into something else that I don't really fit into. The more I've done that, the more things have just kind of made sense faster.
It's like a very 1970s punk rock, like Bowery vibe, which I respect a lot. I want to jump off. You used the word opportunist, and you mentioned the Weinstein thing, which I feel like you've probably beaten to death a million times. Is the explanation of how it all happened and what went down. Uh,
Sure.
and as someone who also went viral about a month before you, um, I don't want to ask you to have to give the blow by blow again. But if you're listening or watching and you don't know, Kelly was performing stand up, and a creep, a very well known creep, was in the audience. And now I'm telling your story. Whatever. It's Google her. It's on the damn internet. I want to talk about kind of the experience of the aftermath because
Right.
it's a really unique and weird thing. And we are I don't know, small club of people who have experienced this over the last like 12 years that this has existed. What was it like for you?
It was really strange because the week before that, I had gone on this trip to LA that I mentioned that I thought was like going to be the biggest thing for me. Like I busted my ass for like 2 months. I had like left my job and wasn't looking for new jobs. I was like investing all my money and time into the show and like making like a pilot and me and all my friends getting flown out to LA and putting on this show. It was like a live, like an SNL type thing where I had to like live. I was like the creator and putting this live sketch show together, and the buyers came and I had to meet with them. And it's like the biggest thing that ever happened to me. And I remember like it felt huge. Like I was waiting to like pitch the show, and like Dimitri Martin was next to me and he was pitching his show. I was like, we're both pitching a show? What? Like I remember just like I was just like it was like my mind was on fire. And it was the most exhausting, like big week of my life. And I got back, like didn't know what was gonna happen. I felt just drained. Like I kind of the odds of a show getting bought are so low, but like the amount that I had to put into it as someone who didn't already have like a team and everything was a lot. So that day is when the Weinstein thing happened. So I was like, it's like the first time I had done stand up in a while because I'd been so busy with this show thing. And I was like kind of exhausted, but also like that whole trip was a huge confidence boost for me. So it kind of put me like, it was almost like I was put exactly where I needed to be, where I was like in my power suit still that I had worn from the whole I was still wearing like my LA power suit. And I was like, I had just had an interview for a new job. As I was like, got back, the day I got back, I was like, you need to do an interview, like get a new job in New York, like let's go. Nailed the interview. I was like feeling good, feeling exhausted. And then I get to the show, and I remember I was just, when that happened, the first thing I thought was like, fuck, they introduced me. The way they introduced me is they said, Kelly just pitched her show in LA. And I was like, can this guy still fuck that up for me? Because I was like, I don't know. I was like, he seems kind of like a pathetic, like has no friends or power anymore. But like, can he still like make a call to like WME or somebody and be like, drop Kelly's project? I don't know what he's capable of. So I was just, that was my first panic, that I was just like, fuck, why'd they have to introduce me like that? Because even like, I knew I was going to say something as I was walking up to the stage. And as I was walking up, I was like, Kelly is pitching her show in Hollywood. I was like, but yeah, so that was my first thought. Like, I messaged the producer, like, can this guy, like, I'm sorry if this fucked things up for us. Like, just by the way I did this, like, I'm sorry. And he was like, Kelly, it's fine. Like, I don't think he can do anything. So good job. And then everything blew up. And then the show, I like somewhere in all my million emails from press and like fans and whatever, there was like an email saying that the show wasn't bought. And it was weird because it wasn't, it was like such a blip. Like, it was weird how much the priority changed, that like, that would have crushed me. But I was like too overwhelmed to even be crushed. And it sucks because I think it still crushed some other people who were involved. And like, I didn't even have the bandwidth to deal with that and like be a good leader and like sit everyone down and talk about it. I was so just like, ah! Like I was just having people drill me about the most dramatic experiences of my life. Because I mean, question one is always about Weinstein. Question two is like, so Kelly, when you were 17, tell us.
Oh,
Like,
Jesus.
I'm like, so I mean, it was like people re-traumatizing me everywhere. Even like comedy interviews would re-traumatize me. I'd go on a comedy show and they would just only be talking to me about trauma. Like asking questions like, do you think you're a comedian because you're a rape victim?
Oh my God.
Like
It's
that
just
would
like
be like that would be the hot question to ask me on like a comedy show. And I would
like so tasteless. It's so tactless.
people also like seem to want me to do material on the subject. So really quickly, because someone asked me to like said I could do a show like at New York Comedy Festival, I put together my show Rape Jokes by Survivors, which is a show I'd been doing. I had done before, I'd produced it before, but I was like, I should write a new set for this because none of my old jokes make sense. So I wrote a whole new set and I had like a few weeks to practice it. So I was just putting all my energy into like drilling the set, going wherever I could go up every night. And it would bomb a lot because it's material that's made for this show. It's very specific. And also comedians would follow me up, like clubby type comedians usually would follow me up and like riff off of my set by doing like a mean rape joke. So I was just, and like there were a lot of comedians that were like, yes, you know, we stand Kelly, but like there were also weird kind of cold receptions that I don't really know how to describe. But like I was given an opportunity to like, during this whirlwind, like somebody like flew me out to LA to, which was so weird, just like going back a few weeks later for this other reason. And I was performing at the main room and at the Improv, like on the same show as like Liza Schlesinger in the sold out room. And I'd never done anything like that before. And I was performing this all new set. And the reason I was flown out is because this documentary crew is filming me. So they're like all over me. And no, none of the other comedians are talking to me really, except like one other like rookie comedian, not anyone that's like you know, and it's just like cold. And I don't know if that's just like, no, it's weird because like it's normal to be treated cold when you're like the new person. And it's normal to be treated cold when you have like you're getting a lot of attention, and just when people don't know you. But I had to add this added layer of like it's about my trauma. So it
Yeah.
was like processing it with this layer where then it would like compound on that, and I'm like, are they being mean to me because of that? Or do they think I'm like call out rape girl Bachman that's gonna like ruin their rapey show? Like I don't know. Like I don't know like what they so I had these added like, and then sometimes people would validate that, and like someone would say like tell me they got in a fight with some comedians defending me and that people didn't like me or said I was an opportunist, or I'd go on a radio show and find out that they had been talking about me for weeks, saying that this was like the show I was at was like an open mic and Harvey Weinstein wasn't even really there at the show. He was like in the back at a restaurant, and like I like it was an opportunist type moment, which just isn't true. And I would just correct them and be like, no, it was a private event and he was invited and it was a private ticketed event, but it doesn't matter.
Well,
Like,
yeah, even if he was just like, even if it was just like an open mic, he was eating in the back, it doesn't change the dynamic really
yeah,
at fucking all.
but
I mean, honestly.
yeah, no, I was too overwhelmed to even follow like negative or positive feedback. Like I was missing even like my heroes were like messaging me on Twitter and I didn't even see the messages for months. Sometimes like I didn't even know how to check messages on Twitter because I had never used Twitter before. So I was very confused. I thought I only had one message from Chelsea Peretti, and it was because actually I follow her. So I could only get her message because I had my messages turned off.
And it's got the separate box for the people you don't follow.
Yeah, so it was just really, yeah, it was overwhelming. And then I self-isolated myself and only came out like to do this big show that I wrote. I wrote like an hour show, and then this happened. So it's pretty weird.
I had very much the same experience in regards to Twitter, where I've had an account for like, I don't know, 10 years, and I think I had like 700 followers before the thing happened, and I think I had tweeted like 100 times over 10 years. Like it's just, I barely knew how to use the damn app.
Yeah.
And then
I had literally one tweet.
Yeah, and then it's all of a sudden you're literally learning as you go, and that weird viral storm that like being in the middle of it, it's just there's nothing like it that I think I've ever been able like that's comparable. Like I didn't sleep for like 3 days because you can't.
No, it was very strange because news people would call me and they would just basically be like, we'll be at your house in 10 minutes, get in the car. And I was like, no, like I would just like refuse. And then someone would be like, call from like a big news outlet, be like, no one's ever like put me on hold before. What's going on? And I'm like, I'm fucking on the phone with someone else. So I was like yelling at people and just sitting there like still in my pajamas, having people like put me on like no makeup, like disheveled, and then like drilling me. And I felt very like wrung out. And then I realized you're allowed to say no after like 2 days. So I just said no to everyone. And then I would only say yes if someone like was asking me if I could write something, because I felt like I had then control over my narrative, which is very important to me. So I wrote that was the nicest part of that part was like New York Times saying like, hey, you can write an op-ed if you want, like ignore the other people from New York Times bothering you, like I'm the editor, blah, blah, blah. Just if you want to write something. And then that was like a project, because I'm an art, like I like a project. I don't like all this like tension so much as I was like, oh, I can write something. And then I worked on that for 2 days. And then another person, the Guardian or whoever, says like you can write off, and so I was like just focusing on like things I could do and trying to ignore whatever people were saying about me, good or bad. And I didn't tweet at all for a couple months. Just kind of let people say whatever they were saying and let my friends defend me if they felt inclined to, but like I just didn't look at it. And then getting ready for that show, and then getting ready for another show, like it was like I just tried to give myself projects and ignore the hype. And I had really given myself a great project of like trying to take this big show on tour, and that was like my plan I was excited about. And then my isolation was extended.
It's so funny to me though. I mean, because the opportunist label, which I think gets thrown at everyone who has like a moment on the internet like that, but tangibly it sounds like so much did the opposite. You started saying no to the interviews and the attention. You stopped tweeting all these things that could have been used to build up. Like that's very different. Yet there's still people who like threw that label at you.
Well, it was just like anytime, like, okay, for example, like if someone says, if you participate in this documentary, you get to perform at the Improv. I'm a comedian. I want to perform there. Like, that's an opportunity that someone's offering me. It's not like me being like, yes, I'm a comedian that's going to take opportunities. Like, what the fuck would you do if you were in that situation? Like, I didn't ask to be in this situation. And that was kind of what confused me about that. But I don't think overwhelmingly, obviously, like people said positive things. And I think people within the community kind of, some people just are who they are, like
Yeah.
talk shit or are bitter or whatever about whoever. So
Well, it's
I
always
just
like 98% positive, and the 2% that's negative like stands out as like just
yeah.
yeah.
It's just, I don't know. And it's weird, like what people think happens versus what actually happens. Like people seem to think like, I didn't get representation from this. I didn't get a job. I'm still unemployed. In fact, I lost a job opportunity because that day I went to a job interview before this all happened. I did get that job and I was too overwhelmed to accept it. And then I was so overwhelmed with all these opportunities the following months that are unpaid, of exposure opportunities or get up, stage time or whatever. I didn't even look for jobs because I was so overwhelmed. I was like, okay, Kelly, invest in yourself. Like, this company is telling you to write a pilot, just like they're not paying you, just write the pilot. And like, I didn't actually get like money or like representation from this. It's not to say I won't eventually, but like I think people had this idea that like you go viral and you get like your rich and famous contract and sign it and like but really like I'm still unemployed. Like I am on unemployment and Medicaid and like everybody else.
Yeah.
Like I'm not, like following does not equal money.
No, it doesn't. And you have to figure out how to convert them to some extent. And there's like a spark moment where you can, and once it's gone, it's kind of gone. When my video moment happened, I was working on a campaign. The event was centered around that campaign, so I used all of it to raise money for the campaign. And there's so many things in retrospect that like, I mean, one, we lost that campaign, so I'll never stop like wondering like, should I have paid my student loans with this instead? Or the flip side is like, there's also things that like you keep thinking. I don't know if this is the experience you had, but I kept thinking this is going to be over in like an hour. This will die down in like 2 hours. And so when these people start reaching out to you, and they're like, these like merchandising companies were reaching out to me, and like lawyers and shit, and I was just blowing them off. Like I wasn't even bothering to respond to them. And then all of a sudden there's other people selling t-shirts with like photos of me and shit on them, and I'm like, fuck, we should have done that. 2 weeks later we will have one
Right.
for people, you know?
Well, I think the best advice I got around that time, which I still feel right about, like, someone just said, like, take what you want and leave everything else. Like, take only exactly what you want, like what you wanted anyway. Not like what someone convinces you want now, but like what you would want to do. And like, what are the focus on the things you want to do, because a lot of people were throwing things at me that I've never wanted to do that they were saying like I could do, like acting. Like, I'm not really, I would be an actor in like my own show. I'm not like trying to pursue acting. Like, maybe I could, but there were things that were sort of like, okay, I'll do that because I need money, but like I don't want to invest into that. Or I just sort of thought like, okay, I do want to, like, I have pilots that I've written that I want to sell. I have a feature I've written I want to sell. I want to do stand-up. So I focus on these few things and look in the sea of emails and like do those things, because I don't have somebody filtering my inbox. If somebody's like, you want to be on this show in Australia or whatever, I'm like, no, like, I don't know. So I just like, just don't, I don't regret not like, one, retelling the same freaking story to like every press outlet, because like once you've told it like 3 times, it's just like, they're all asking the question as if they're the first person to ask it. And then it's like, haven't I already said this? Like, read the news. Like, what are you like? So also I think there's value of like, in terms of like your appearance around that time, it's like a supply and demand thing of like, when you overexpose yourself, you're taking away that value too. Of like, it's different when, like, I think Sarah Cooper is a great example of the opposite, in that she went viral for what she wanted to do. She went viral for a funny video. And so the answer to that is simple, right? Everyone's tuning in because they love her content. She can make more content, then they will love her. They will love it more. They will, and it grows exponentially because they found her for why she wanted to be found.
Yeah.
I was found not for what I wanted to be found for, not a bad reason, but people followed me because they think I'm brave. Because they think, like, it's like people, feminists following me, people who just like me as a person for that reason. It's not about my comedy. It's not about my personal goals. So it's sort of at that point, like, I can feed into that narrative that they like about me, and I could like keep doing more press, like talking head type stuff, write more op-eds, do that. But like, is that what I want? Like, not really. Like, so I decided to focus on what I want, and that, unfortunately, or fortunately or whatever, like, that means like, I know me, like, the people who follow me aren't necessarily gonna like my humor, like the stuff I do on a day-to-day basis. They aren't going to interact with that as much as they would if I write something brave. Like, it's that's like what comes with being followed in that way, is like taking it with that grain of salt. Like, this has, because I know some other people who've gone viral, and it's like, I've reminded people, like, it's not attached to your value. The fact that you say one brave thing and that gets a bajillion likes, and then you say one thing that you're proud of and that gets 2 likes. It's like, these people have followed you for this. Other people will follow you for this or not. Some people will unfollow you when you stop doing that. It's like, it's all good. I just focus on like what I want to do, like, which is make stuff. So I'm just like, just keep making the stuff. Don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about what they're saying. unless you say something stupid, and then like delete it and apologize. But like that's kind of my motto. And
Well, it's a good
yeah.
one to have. Because, I mean, it is, I mean, people project what they take from those types of moments onto the person in them. And that was a thing that I definitely found with mine. And you have to go kind of look around in the aftermath of it and see what people are saying about you almost. And I remember there was an old stand-up video of mine up from like years and years ago that like someone went and commented on. And it was like a couple days after the viral moment, and they were like, "Oh, like, I thought I was a fan of yours, or I was a fan of yours, but like, this is what you think is funny, blah blah blah." And I was like, "You didn't think you were a fan of mine. You saw a video on CNN. It's a totally different thing."
Yeah.
The politics of it work like that though too. I mean, my moment was so politically charged that there was such a variety of people that read whatever they wanted to into that moment, that once it started coming to like my actual humor, as you were saying, or my interests or my takes on political things, there was a lot of people. In fact, I do know the number. It was like somewhere around 20,000 who were like, "Actually, I don't like this at all. I'm checking out right now." And here's a strongly worded like 7-paragraph DM about why.
Right. Well, I try not to pay attention to the numbers of like who checked in and out initially. Like now, sure, I still lose like 1,000 followers a month or something because I'm tweeting my dumb tweets and people check out. And sometimes, like occasionally I'll notice like a famous person like unfollowed me or something just because I like follow them, and I'll go to their account and be like, "Oh, I thought they followed me." But that's the only time that it bothers me, or not bothers me. It's the only time I like think about like, what did I say that scared them away? But
Chrissy Teigen was mine for that. Where I was like, how did I piss you off? What did I do?
I don't even want to say Brian, it hurts too much. But I also, one time, Stephen Colbert liked my tweet for a second and then unliked it. It was an accident. He's never liked any of my tweets. But one day I got a notification like, "Oh my God, Stephen Colbert liked your tweet." And then I went to go look at it and it was gone. But mainly I just try to, actually it was like, that one of the first weird things that happened is Jeff Garlin called me like when I like went viral, and he was like, "It's Jeff Garlin!" Like, he's just like, "You fucker, you hero fuck, you brave fuck, you motherfucking like hero." And I was like, "Ah!" And he was like, "I'm gonna tell you what to do right now, like, get off Twitter." Ignore the fucking haters. He's like, also ignore the love. Ignore it. And I thought that was he was the one who told me like to just focus on what I want out of this, because he's like, most of these people are gonna fuck off in like 2 weeks. A lot more of them are gonna fuck off in like 6 months or 3 months or whatever. He's like, some people are gonna ride with you for life like me. So just focus on us.
It's really good advice.
I was like, we're friends for life? Sick. But it was just, I try to just, I mean, I took my own advice until COVID, and now I'm fucking on Twitter because I have nothing else to do. And I kind of hate it because I've like become like kind of addicted to Twitter in the sense that I log on a lot, and it's just because I'm so bored. But I don't want it to keep going that way when it's over, because like that's not me at all.
You know what it is though, is it's like, for me, because I'm on there all the time now and I never was before all this, but it's figuring out how to be yourself there.
Yeah.
And like that has been super cool. And like I've built relationships with people, some of whom are like childhood heroes of mine, and some of whom are just like random people.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. It's really cool to like when you start getting the people that are like coming in because of the other stuff you're doing who have no
Hmm.
fucking idea about the viral moment. And I don't know if you've had
Right.
that yet, but I've started to.
Sometimes I forget that some people are like that because I'll reference until I reference. I'll like make a tweet implying that everyone just follows me because of like I'll be like, sorry, I know you came here for rape or something. I don't know. But then I'll say something like that, which is very like intense to say, and so then a bunch of people will be like, "What are you talking about?"
I got
And I'm like, "Oh, you don't follow me for that
I
reason?"
I got invited on a podcast like a week ago, and I just like assumed it was gonna be the same thing. We rehashed the whole viral moment thing, and then before we started recording, the guy was like, "I'm gonna be honest, like I invited you on here because like I saw this like hot take you had on Twitter about XYZ issue, and I thought it was funny and clever. And then I saw your other stuff and saw there's a bunch of people following you, so I was like, well, let's have you on." He's like, and I didn't realize until an hour ago that you're the guy from that video. I was like,
Yeah.
fucking, that's perfect. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I want.
Oh, it's definitely, it's nice. Like when I get an opportunity and I realize like the person has no idea who I am. Like actually right before all this, I was going to start having like, well, I don't even want to say it anymore because it doesn't happen. But I had an opportunity and the guy was like, honestly, I don't really know who the fuck you are, but it was like a comedy club owner. And he's like, I hope you can cross over. You can cross over the river from Brooklyn to Manhattan, but you're funny. And I was kind of like, oh, he doesn't, he clearly is not online, this man. This isn't why we're talking.
God bless him for it.
But it was just like, occasionally this, or just something else I do. I don't know, like I've had nothing else go even remotely viral. Like my tweets very rarely break like 1K. Like I'm not good at Twitter. I'm not like a joke machine on Twitter. But I'm grateful that I got online before all this happened because it's really been nice to have an outlet like during quarantine. And I think if I had gotten online if I had before going viral, like been in quarantine and felt like, oh, all right, I'll try out Twitter, I would have just felt so strange tweeting to no one that I would have like not tweeted at all. And I'm glad, even if I'm tweeting to no likes, even that someone's out there actually. People are out there not liking the tweets. They're reading them and they're scrolling on, and there's community in that.
Well, I told you I'd keep you for a half hour. I've kept you for a lot longer than that.
Oh, that's okay. I'm like the queen rambler, especially when I haven't talked to anyone all day. So
that is literally the point of the show. So it's right in the title. So there you go. I do have two things I want to leave with. One is the same question that I tend to end all of these with, which is, Kelly, what's the thing that you want to put out there in the world the most? What's the thing you're trying to convey to other people?
Like a message?
Yeah, or anything. I don't know. It could be a big moralistic statement. It could be, check out my SoundCloud. What do you want to put out there?
I want, in like an existential sense, I want to, I don't know, I want to be like, I want to be like used up when I die. Like I want to.
You want to be like turned into food and furniture, or
I want to do as much as I can. I want to shine my light as far as I can. I want to do as much as I can. I want to do as much good. I'm trying to think more outwardly lately. I want wealth to be redistributed. I want Palestine to be free. I want the police defunded. I want prisons to be closed. I want I want a communist president. You know, I don't know. I have a couple of podcasts. I have one called Stupid Heavy with National Lampoon. I just started a new one called The Heart Show, which is just like an Instagram show that me and my friend Dylan Adler do, and we call ourselves HR for indie art, and we just bring on artists who like give us their HR complaints about how what's wrong with all independently run art communities.
There's a lot.
Yeah, that's it. I would like a job if anyone has one of those.
We'll,
and you can
we'll
check
start
out
a petition.
You can check out Boys Drool on Spotify.
Well, the second question was gonna be what do you want to plug, but I think you hit a few of those during it, and he gave us a political manifesto, which is great. I've had actual politicians on here, and that's the first time anyone's ever answered that question with like a bullet pointed, like this is what I want. These are the policies I want.
Let's go. I want universal basic income for everyone and health insurance for all.
All right. Write in Kelly Bachman for Public Advocate, New York. And this has been Sorry for Rambling. I'm Alex Cack. Check out all the links to Kelly's many cool projects in the description of wherever the hell you are watching or listening to this. And I will see you next time. I'm supposed to plug something else at the end of that, and I forgot. We'll cut it in post.